of elections, who in turn appointed district commissioners as returning officers. And when I became Attorney General, I was basically also now the chairman of the Electoral Commission. I was in charge of the elections in this Republic of Kenya. But I can tell you that I revoked that legal notice and restored the function of conducting elections to its rightful place, although the President continued to appoint the commissioners. Just before I revoked the legal notice, I was surprised when I was invaded in my office by all the opposition political parties and the leaders at around 6:37 p.m. as I was working. And I believe they came because I was the Attorney General, but also because I was the person in charge of elections. They came with their key supporters. I don't know whether I can, I think most of you are young to have been among the key supporters at that time. I think a lot of Mshoka, the only one who may qualify is...
I don't think I was there. This untimely and godly hour.
After the man was still in Moi University, I think, at that time, or maybe in some primary school in Mombasa. This was now in May of 1992. All the opposition political parties plus their key supporters came to my office and made it clear to me that I convey to the President that he disbands the Electoral Commission immediately and new members appointed with their involvement. In other words, they wanted to propose members and the President appoints. Of course, the clarion call at that time was no new Electoral Commission, no elections. To cut the long story short, and that will one day appear in my memoirs, in an extenso. Up to about 10 p.m., and they agreed on my proposal, which was in accordance with the Constitution as it was then. The proposal was that although the President had no constitutional powers to disband the Commission once appointed, however, the Constitution at that time provided only a minimum of members of the Electoral Commission. So consequently, he could appoint additional members. So I say the way I can help them is through that way, or advise the government. So we agreed that they should go and nominate, give me a list of persons from whom the President can, in his absolute discretion, appoint. I informed them that such persons should not be officials of the political party, or any party, or be active members of their party, or any party, or be persons known to belong to their party, or any party. Furthermore, such persons should be persons of integrity, well respected in society, persons who had retired honorably from public or private sectors, or well-known senior professionals, or persons known for their independence of mind. In short, they should be persons of gravitas. As Nigerians would say, persons of legal luminaries. In view of the constitutional discretion vested in the President, I asked each leader not to give me a list where they have all sat down and agreed, but each leader to submit a list to me separately. I can tell you, within 2 days, I received from each letter suggesting, in fact, there was no list which had suggested names of under 12. Some had 16, 14, 15, whatever. And the letters, I can tell you, the must be there in the Attorney General's office, were actually signed by the leaders, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Honorable Mwai Kibaki, Kijana Wamalwa, Martin Shikuku, and so on and so on. At that time, we were dealing with about 9 opposition political parties, but these were the major ones which. And the leaders applied their mind to it and produced those lists. That point is going to be important on how a political party can nominate. It should really be at a very high level, under the signature of the president, party leader, and so on. Now, I examined all those letters. I can tell you that 3 or 4 names appeared in nearly all the lists. 3 or 4 names. My memory is going short, but I know Margaret Kenyatta was one of them, who appeared in almost all the lists. There was Harry Mule, a former PS Treasury, again, whose name appeared in nearly all the lists. And there were others. I can tell you the president, when I showed him and analyzed the situation, had no problem whatsoever in appointing the names which were common in all the lists. And that's how the additional names to the Electoral Commission were appointed, in addition to those already appointed by the president earlier. After the IPPG of 1997, it was agreed that KANU nominates for appointment 11, and the opposition parties nominate for appointment 10, and they did so. And the Electoral Commission was the largest I ever known, had 21 members. You know, elected or appointed by the president on the nomination of political parties, direct nominations, political parties. And unlike before, in my situation where I said, give me a number of names and we shall decide from there. They were just appointing a name and that is it. Of course, you'll agree with me that 21 members are a bit unwieldy. But let me remind you that this is the Electoral Commission which delivered the 2002 general elections, whose results were applauded and accepted locally here in Kenya, regionally and internationally. And I believe it was the only general election in the multi-party era, and that is after we amended the constitution, where no election petition was filed challenging the election of the president. So all I'm trying to say, when you're considering these issues in a sober manner, don't try to demonize the fact that political parties should not nominate. I think that should be on the table, because our history has shown it, as I've seen it. The chairman, yeah. So, I mentioned about the first government control electoral commission, the second commissions nominated by political parties. And now the third is what we have been experiencing since in 2007. The third is the so-called commissions which are expert-based, where the election board, through advertising, interviewing, and selecting the members on merit, This has been Kenya's experience under the new constitution. This looks good on paper and has many points in its favor. However, the electoral commission so appointed have not inspired confidence up to now. But its major merit is that the members are supposed to be experts, they are non-partisan, and not affiliated to a political party. However, we have noticed that the selection board, they rarely agree, even on method of scoring points, and that method can also be interfered with by ensuring that a member gives very high points to the one he favors and very low to the one he doesn't like, so that when it comes to average, somebody goes through. And in fact, and I believe you have heard here allegations that even on the last electoral commission, some of the commissioners, although it was through that system, that some of the commissioners were appointed as a result of maneuverings by certain political powers or political or eminent politicians. So it can also be manipulated, in other words. To cut a long story short, what is my proposal? My proposal and recommendations, having studied the three matters of appointing commissioners, is that we have a mixed system of some commissioners nominated by political parties and some commissioners appointed through a refined system that we now have. In this way, the benefits from both ways can be realized. I suggest, what I'm suggesting here can be refined in further discussions, particularly amongst you and amongst the political parties and other key stakeholders. I suggest that the top 2 or 3 political parties should nominate people for appointment, direct appointment to the Electoral Commission. And they should, the top 2 or 3 should nominate 1 commissioner each. And the rest of the political parties should jointly nominate 1. The persons to be nominated, that's a procedure, by the political parties should meet the set criteria, which I've already mentioned, is the criteria that I used and which the political party has accepted and which they implemented because they gave me real proper names. People of integrity, well-known reputations and whatnot. They gave me those names, and out of which we appointed that criteria can be used by the political parties in suggesting the names. This can, of course, be refined properly. This will enable the Commission to have persons of gravitas and also experts. The persons of gravitas, you see, people who, if you appoint, the country will just say, yeah, that one we agree, you know. Such a person, I can tell you, is not likely to apply and be subjected